All right, how's everybody doing tonight? We are here once again with Comic Book Team Up, John's Longbox and myself. Today we are looking at Shade, the Shadow Saga from Galen Fulton, and John and Galen were talking before we began the stream here, and they seem to have a lot in common about what they're doing for their comics. I'll have to say right up front, though, I am dying of the heat today. So if I lose my mic, I apologize. I'm trying to walk around and stay cool. It's like 102 here. So, all right. All right. Let's get right into this book, Galen. Tell us what Shade is about and when it's going to go up on Kickstarter.
Okay, so first, we are thinking about dropping at the end of the month. Hopefully, if everything goes well, either in the month or start of next month. So, the main inspiration from Shade is basically Indiana Jones and James Bond. I grew up loving these movies, and those were big inspirations of mine for Shade. Shade is a supernatural agent working for a supernatural espionage agency that fights all the things that go bump in the night. So basically, all the political possessions that you don't ever see, those are taken care of by Shade and his team of shadows. So the Guild of Shadows is the supernatural agency that Shade works for, and they are sent along on mysterious missions, and they have to encounter threats of supernatural and otherworldly um, kind, and so Shade is kind of like a cocky hotshot. He's really good at what he does. He's almost pretty much right there at the tippy top of the guild and fighting, and so he's basically the combat expert of the team, and he's kind of got like a little bit of cockiness going on. He's kind of an outsider. He wasn't brought up in the world of Guild of Shadows. He's what's known as a recruit. He's not a legacy that was born from the Guild of Shadows and raised in the Guild of Shadows like Drake Ducard. His kind of mentor is kind of he's I wouldn't say he's like his esquire, but he's the guy that he's stuck with and put under his wing. And so there's a lot of he's like the grumpy uncle, let's say. And then we've got Lady Yuri, who Lady Yuri, she's gonna kill you. She doesn't speak much, but her actions do all the talking. She's a silent, deadly ninja type, and these three they have a lot of history together, and we were thrown right into the middle of it with with issue one. Now, issue one and issue two are both coming out together on Kickstarter. Issue two is a nightmare, to say the least, in a good
It
way.
seems like you have some, well, superhero influence on a lot of the art here. So what's your superhero influence on this? Because you said, James Bond and Indiana Jones, but there is a superhero elements to this. If I can see correctly, what's in the background here.
Yes, with a sprinkle of Hellboy and Men in Black. I throw that in there as well. Those were heavily influenced. I always loved Hellboy,
Yeah,
in that world of it. It's kind of superhero, but it's also that supernatural part of it. But I grew up
you sold me.
on
I'm a
Marvel.
Hellboy fanatic.
One more time.
I said you sold me. I'm a Hellboy fanatic. I love that blend of superheroes, occult, and investigation. So if this is what your comic is about, you got me.
And that's what it was I love the occult. I love all that, and so I wanted to tell a spy story that was sprinkled in with all this supernatural occult flair to it. And Shade has to become his own superhero that he thinks he is, but he's blinded himself, and so he's got to fight himself to really become that superhero that we want him to be.
Wow, that sounds really good. I'm doing something similar to that because I was taking basically Indiana Jones and Sam Spade, and I'm putting them together. I have a book that's coming out soon. It's called Fade to Blue, and it's set in the 1930s, and it's basically got a little bit of superhero thrown in there as well. But it's just a fellow who finds himself in a spot where he can finally see things supernatural because not everybody can see them. So very interesting, and I love that kind of. That kind of aesthetic as well, and that kind of idea. Indiana Jones style stuff, I think, is going to be more and more what comes out when superheroes, or at the very least, attached to superhero stuff.
I agree that Indiana Jones. It's that adventure that we all love and we all seek. But how can we make it that much more exciting? Let's add superpowers. So. And that's what basically this is. Indiana Jones with superpowers. I was thinking
that sounds awesome.
I was thinking how when I was coming up with the character of Shade, I was like, what would a ghost of a spy, what would his life have been? And that's kind of, I went backwards, and that's how I came to Shade, was a supernatural spy, a ghost of a spy. How did this spy become?
It's a fun premise.
Yeah. So that's
are
that's
you
how I
you
came
the
up with
artist?
it. What's that?
Forgive me. As soon as we go live, the estimator who's going to put in air conditioning in my house had to call me, so I was texting him. I apologize.
Oh, no worries.
I missed. Are you the artist?
I wish I was that visually talented with my hands. No, I'm the writer, I'm the creator, and I've tapped some amazing artists. Ram Silva is my illustrator. He's from Brazil. I love Ram. He's one of my great friends. And then we've got Danilo Leo on colors.
Cool.
And they're like a tag team duo. They're like my dynamic duo. They're like my Batman
this is
and Robin.
Interesting that we have a panel here of 3 writers who can't draw. And it's very frustrating because I draw a lot. I'm just terrible at it. So do you like do little stick figures and send to your artists? Like, no, like this. I always joke around. I send Renzo complete garbage drawings, and then he polishes up and turns them into gold.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, there you go.
To your point, I have a comic panel right here. That I do my own panels and I send off, and they greatly help. I do my own doodles, but I have a lot of action figures, and I do a lot of posing,
Hey, Sunspot.
Yeah. So I do a lot of posing, and that kind of really helps because there's a big language divide between me and Ram and me and Dan. English isn't their first language, and so it's another layer of finding that communication with that what's the word I'm looking for? Cooperation. The collaborative effort makes it that much fundamental. So using visual aids really do help. But I wish I could make that. It would be so much easier. Props to the guys that can do that. Props to them.
That's one of the things about creating comics right now. It's international. I mean, I got Renzo, which he's in Mexico. I got another artist in South America. I got a colorist in the Middle East. I got 2 other artists. One's in the Philippines, another one's in Japan. You got people all over the world, and language.
Archie, don't forget, you have one in that barrier. You have one artist in that mythical country of Canada.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, yes,
Frozen North.
I've got an artist. He's a letterer, but he's also an editor, and shout out to him. I'm blanking on his name, but he really pointed me in the right direction on issue 3, which is already being inked right now. Update.
But you're absolutely right. It's international. I have a team. So far, it's the new world. It's North America, South America, but it's a lot of fun. Drawn up from Mexico. I got Canadians, and I got Mexican, and I got guys in California, and I got guys in way South America, all working together, and we're putting out a bang up comic. So it's a lot of fun, as I call.
So tell us a little bit about Kinetic Comics and how that plays into the release of this new book.
So Kinetic Comics is my publisher. I started Kinetic Comics coming up on a year. We're almost on our year anniversary. We're very young. We're very new, and I needed a platform. I needed something to push my stuff out and others, you know. And so I had started writing, you know, these books and needed some kind of outlet, and thus Kinetic Comics. So Kinetic Comics came about because I was thinking, I was like, what is this about? You know, and my favorite superhero, my favorite character is Gambit from the X-Men. And what is his power? You know, he can, you know, control kinetic energy. And so boom, kinetic energy. And it just, I looked it up, and then it was, no one had taken it, and now it's mine. And Kinetic Comics, imagine your potential.
Cool.
That's my slogan. And
it works in a couple of ways.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, works in a bunch of ways. And so we've got a new artist, a new creator. His name's Eric. He's a stand-up comedian. He's bringing Danger Squad to Kinetic Comics this summer. Also launching through Kickstarter, so be on the lookout for that as well. So yeah, and we've got I've got another comic. It's called Bandito Red. It's a mini comic. But it's about a local hip hop artist here in Louisville, Kentucky. He's a great friend of mine, and that was really cool because that project was the first time that I got to work with a team of pretty much 100% of people, local talent. And so it was cool to be able to get together, have a beer in the same spot, and work on the comic together. And that was really
I joke around, but I'm not joking that if my comic makes it to $100,000, I'm flying everybody here, and we can all hang out in the house and have a beer, have a barbecue, and sign comics and everything. Yeah, so I totally get what you're talking about. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's the world. That would be great, you know, having a place that we can all converge and do that, you know, if money, you know, all provided. But yeah, to be, that's my dream, is hopefully one day to actually shake hands with Rom in person, you know, from who lives in Portugal. Shout out to him. He just had a baby. Beautiful. So yes.
So yes. This is your own site. You're selling these comics through your own site, and you're doing a Kickstarter?
So they're not on my site right now. They're not on my site right now. But you can go through my site to Kickstarter and get them through that way. Yeah. Yeah. So
and this is
looking forward to that.
You already had a campaign?
No, this is my very first Kickstarter. This is my very first crowdfunding campaign. This is my very first anything. I'm dipping my toes. So I'm new to this crowdfunding campaign, or this crowdfunding world. I'm liking it. It seems like it's getting a lot of new creators connected to me, and so I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Hopefully, you know, we can hit our goal, and we can fund our next comic.
What's your goal?
Our goal is, I think it's going to be either 1,500 or 25. So maybe we might end up somewhere in the middle, at 2,000.
Okay, good for you. Cool.
So to be clear, so you get issue 1 and 2 with the campaign, and I take it they're going to be in floppy format, are they?
Yes, you can get issue 1 and 2. There's a couple of different editions. I've got issue 2. I've got issue 1 has a variant and a deluxe copy, which has a bunch of different a bunch of extra artwork in the back. Issue 2 has two covers, and we're working on a possible glow in the dark variant. So stay tuned to that.
That's wow, a glow in the dark variant.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Because I see other people doing like chromium covers, and you know, I don't know, glow in the dark variant. That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's new to me. That's new to me. But I've got a great team over at Geek Collective. They've got a lot of good people that are working with them, and so hopefully we can make some really cool exclusive glow in the dark variants of this bad boy.
Let me just put that on screen. Just give me 1 second here.
Yeah.
Single solo layout. Here we go.
Oh, nice. That would look awesome.
So that was actually that was a live painting that was done by Steven Beezer. He's a whoops. He's a wonderful local talent. He's worked with me on Shade. He actually was the original character designer for Shade. So he helped me bring Shade and Drake Ducard to life.
And these are your original characters. And isn't that so cool?
Yeah.
Again, three people over here who could barely draw. You come up with this character in your head, you describe it to a professional artist, and then they draw it. Isn't that when you saw your characters drawn by a guy with talent? How cool was that?
I got goosebumps. It was like you couldn't really see it until it was there, and once it was there, it was just like it's almost, there's no words really to describe it, because you can't do it on maybe for a visual artist, they kind of know because they have they kind of a direction.
Yeah, they're wired different. Yeah.
Move and groove, but you're translating this ethereal image in your brain to another person, and it's never really gonna fully 100% connect. But then when it connects to a point where it's like, yes, thank you.
Right.
And
it's almost magic, because
these
thoughts in my brain, and I can only articulate in thought. Like at one point, I thought I had some artistic talent, and I've learned I don't. You know,
visually,
through these words that I typed to another person who speaks English as a second language, and then when he draws it back, I'm talking about Renzo. Renzo is also the artist for my comic. It's like that's exactly what I pictured. You know, it's almost makes you believe in telepathy. It's so freaking cool. And a few times when Renzo was like, "I want to try this," it's even better. You know, because this is a visually talented artist. You know what I mean? Who knows what works better than a guy like, oh, it's so much fun.
That's the exact thing I always love about this. And, you know, I tried to write so many different kinds of stories before, but writing it this way with the collaboration and have someone else take the ball and go in a completely opposite direction with it and make it better. That's what makes comics, I think, the best medium to be a writer in.
I definitely agree with you about John, with you about
it's okay. Nobody agrees with RJ. It's fine.
Well, John, I agree with both of you, RJ. You about the collaboration, and it is a magical collaboration. That you know, a lot of other art forms are collaborations, but in comics, writers are collaborating with other visual artists, and we're teaming up, and we're molding this written word into a visual thing, and it comes out as a beautiful comic. And I think it really is magic, and it speaks to that telepathy that when artists and when humans get together and they're working on something, even when they're miles apart and language isn't even they don't speak the same language, they can flow together on art and create something. You know, I think it's magic beautiful.
You keep seeing magic, and I keep thinking, you know, we were talking about Dungeons and Dragons before we went live. Just the stereotypical wizard poring over the scrolls, and what's he doing? He's writing these symbols, and then he speaks these symbols, and things come alive. Think about that to you know, I don't want to say early man, but like the Dark Ages or whatever. Like these learned people poring over scrolls, like to the uneducated, reading is magic, and the ability to think about that. I write down my thoughts, I put it on a scroll or whatever, I hand it to you, you go away, you open it up, and now my thoughts are projected into your head, or in an artist. It is magic.
Now we have Hercules, now we have Perseus, now now we have the gods, and now we have a reason why the wind blows. You know, the storytellers were they made us believe this or that. There's that arc Loki had where he was becoming the storyteller god, and it showed how much power he actually had over everything else, because he's writing the reality, and that's what storytellers once were and still are. We are writing reality, whether it's compacted, composed into a little book, or it's something that we can take and discuss here and live in other people's minds.
Yeah, I don't know. You just hit one of my nerd buttons that like the awesome. We take it for granted in a, you know, we'll walk around looking at our phone, and then it drives me nuts that people are using emojis to you know, we're reducing this beautiful art of writing into like almost like 1984. We're getting rid of words. We're compacting, and I don't know. I'm geeking out on something has nothing to do with your comic, but
That's
I want to ask
I'm here to geek out, period.
I want to ask you about let me put this on screen here. This character we have on screen, I take it he's the main villain. Now, I wanted to ask you about this because you just talked about possibly doing a glow in the dark cover, and the last glow in the dark cover that I can remember that's in my collection is probably late 1980s, early 1990s Ghost Rider. Mark Texeira did a glow in the dark cover.
That. I remember that. You know, RJ, you got to remember this guy's a youngin.
You know, I don't even think I have a glow in the dark comic in my collect. Actually, that's a lie.
When that comic came out, I bet you weren't even born yet. You know,
I was born in '93, so
yeah, I think that comic came out in '94. So you know, in your diapers, you weren't checking out the Ghost Rider glow in the dark cover.
No, but you know, he does actually, you know, he does have that version of Shade. He does have a very much of a Ghost Rider vibe, and a Ghost Rider. If you put those two up together, they would look a lot alike. And with a glow in the dark cover of just that cover would look pretty badass. I'd say.
Yeah.
I always thought that was the best version of Ghost Rider, just because he was an angel that had been tortured in hell for so long that he became not corrupted, but mean, basically.
Yeah.
Mean is a polite way of putting Ghost Rider
in my life back in college. So you already had issue number 1, but you didn't crowdfund it. Did I hear correctly?
That's right. I put out issue number 1 just on a friends and family basis, and that was put out about a year ago or so. And so issue 1 was out, and I've issue 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are technically written and you know, in the works. So but now with 2 out, it's really time to, you know, start boosting that up and you know, kind of pushing that out there to the larger comic readers and the larger comic fan base.
Okay. And if when this launches, I'll be able to get the first issue too?
Yes. Issue 1, issue 2 are both available in this launch. You can get 1, you can get 2, you can get both. You can get posters, you can get stickers, you can get kinetic shirts. We're working on trading cards as well. So yeah, you can get 1 and 2. You can get a digital version of both of those, and you can get the physical version as well.
Cool. That sounds good. Sounds good. And is this a limited series? Is this a forever series?
So right now, like I said, issue 1 through 5 is this arc ends at issue 5, and we'll see where it goes. This world is, I've got another I don't want to call it I guess it's not a mini series, but it is a spin-off of specifically of the spy world and other agents and other ongoings. I don't want to say too much about that.
Yeah, you don't want to spoil, and I know you want to talk about it.
I do, and I wouldn't stop. So I'm looking at the things right now. So it's kind of hard not to.
If you take every stream that I've been a guest on and watch them, you can get so many spoilers.
I could imagine you could probably piece together the entire comic. Yeah. So it's going to be hard not to give away too much.
That just shows that you're excited.
Yeah, and when we should be, you know, and RJ, like you said, you know, you kind of said, you know, the villain, and you know, like I kind of, you know, dodged that, you know, on purpose, you know, because, you know, you got to read to find out if that is indeed the villain.
I was going to ask, since you and John were talking before we started about you were talking about using D&D as sort of like a basis of what you're going to create. John does that as well. He has a Heroes RPG, and it's funny that my main character Thomas Valiant, I patterned him a little bit after a gelatinous cube at times. So there's a little bit of D&D thrown in there.
Yeah.
So what are your characters? Do they have a direct connection to your gaming?
So I wouldn't say any of my main characters have a direct. I have actually played kind of Drake Ducard's personality to kind of get a feel of what he would do or say in this situation, but it wasn't a full on bringing him into it, into the campaign. I will say one of my recent favorite characters was I've always kind of been the head of our campaign, and so I finally got to take a seat back, and I played a really dumb character who was just a brute, a barbarian, and I actually had a great time playing that character, just to really role play and get into it and kind of forget yourself and be that character really does help write other characters, instead of like, what would you, Kaylin, or you, John, do? It's what would,
Right.
Shade do, or Drake Ducard, or whoever.
This has nothing to do with your comic, but as a long-term Dungeons & Dragons player, and you said you were never the dungeon master, you're always a player. So do you ever get the
Correct.
other players who always play the same character? Now they're the wizard, but they're also Phil. Now they're the dwarven fighter, but it's still Phil.
Yes.
And now it's the wizard, and it's Phil. I was like, come on, role play a little bit. Give me something.
Yeah. Dive into it. It's theater. Have fun.
You don't get to fight dragons in real life, man. Roll with it. Play.
Exactly.
Have fun.
Exactly.
That's funny because I was just about to say, so Kaylin plays a barbarian. John, I take it you play a wizard. I always play a ranger.
Oh, there you go. We got anybody want to be the DM? Nick, you want to be the DM? Nick in the chat.
Hey, there we go. Ranger, that was actually one of my favorite characters. Probably the character that I've had the longest was I've got I can't even go into that.
Yeah, me and my buddies we're playing my superhero game this Sunday. So we still play. 50-year-old guys sitting around pretending to be superheroes.
No, we got to keep those. We got to keep that inner child alive. The man who keeps the boy alive never grows old, right?
My inner child is fine. I mean, just look around my room. I got to start working on the outer adult one of these days.
That's right. I think it's both of us. I think I've got.
I got to learn how freaking 401ks work. In mutual funds and stuff like that. I have no idea.
I can write a comic script, but don't ask me to do my taxes.
Oh God! Don't get me started. Don't get that. That's one of my push button that I got to hire somebody to give my money to the government. Don't.
No, it's terrible.
So I mean, you're young. You don't have to tell me your age or anything. But when did you start reading comics, and what comics really got you hooked?
So, man. I can't exactly put an age on when I started reading comics, but I grew up reading, or I grew up watching, Saturday morning cartoons with my grandpa, watching X-Men, and that's got me hooked. That's what got me started was, the 90s animated X-Men.
Oh, everybody loves that cartoon, man. That cartoon, that cartoon converted more people to geekdom than anything else I can think of besides comics.
Agreed. That and Batman animated series, those two probably.
Batman animated series, the greatest superhero cartoon of all time, if you ask me.
I still watch both, as an adult, I think that the Batman animated series you could still watch and still enjoy just as much. It's dramatic.
That's my favorite iteration of Batman. Even in the comic books and the movies, that's my Batman.
Agreed. And so that's what really kind of set me on this path. And so I'm dyslexic, and I hated reading. You couldn't put a book in front of me, yeah, I wouldn't read it, and so school was terrible. But once I found comic books, that was one thing that I would sit down and read and go through. And so finally, coming into high school, I start writing, and by that time, my comic book, love is full flush. I've got comics, long boxes, and so I'm starting to write, creative writing, short stories, and all that, and I love that. And then fast forward to my late mid 20s, and I finally got the inspiration to marry my love of creative writing, and comic books. I was like, I can do this myself. I can make my own comic. And so yeah, I've probably been reading. Let's see, I'm 31 now, and probably started reading comics when I was 8. Probably 6.
Yeah, I have a similar story to you. I was in 3rd grade and I was in the bad reading group. You know what I mean? I couldn't read. Reading wasn't fun.
No,
like I tell everybody, when after school you hung out with your friends, you played, you ran around the streets, you didn't do math problems, and you didn't read. Those were activities. But my friends got me into comics, and I looked at these wonderful pictures. I thought, and I couldn't read them, and I was embarrassed, and I pretended, and they called me on it. Like, you don't know what this is, like, you can't read. And there's nothing like peer pressure in a positive way, you know what I mean? And by the end of 3rd grade, I was in the top reading group, and it's all because of comic books, and it's all because Carl and Sean made fun of me because I couldn't read,
Those would be my 2 brothers that made fun of me. They're like, come on, you're just still looking at the pictures. Come on.
It's not because you couldn't read. It's because of your face. Yeah, I mean, that's why he doesn't show his face there.
Okay. No, I didn't pass a single spelling test or any of that, and I was always very self-conscious, never wanted to read, in class, and it was that fear of being made fun of.
And you said you were dyslexic. Now,
yeah.
Do you have difficulty reading?
What's that?
Do you still have difficulty reading?
Yeah, not as much, with so much focus on trying to counter that and combat that.
Is there treatments? I mean, forgive me, I just don't know.
No, not really. It's kind of just you never grow out of it. There's no treatments. You can go to tutoring, you can try different hooked on phonics and what have you, but there's no growing out of it. There's no treatment.
Get beaten by a nun, which worked wonders for me.
which a lot of us did. A lot of us did get beaten, and that's what got their dyslexia beaten out of them, and now they still can't read, and they've got all these traumas from their nuns.
There we go, Michael. Always classing up the joint. Just like you can't look directly into an angel or the burning bush, you can't look directly into RJ.
That's right. I appreciate you, RJ, for hiding your beauty from us.
What is it? I can't remember the word. No, it's not
effulgence.
My effulgence. There you go. It's just too bright. Yes.
My effulgence. That's a great word. There we go. Me and you will put that in the next issue of a comic. Effulgence.
I don't even know. Can we use that in a sentence, please?
Her beauty was effulgent. It basically means radiant.
There we go. I had to pull out my thesaurus for that one.
Yeah.
Just me and my dictionary brain. I like to collect dictionaries.
How do you say your name? Kaylin?
Kaylin Fultz. Yes.
In case you haven't, RJ is the smart one. I'm the dumb one of the group. He classes up the joint, and then I tear it down and knock over the mop bucket. So there you go.
Okay. I can meet right here in the middle.
So when is your campaign going to launch?
So we are wrapping up on a few more designs. Like I said, we're still in works for the glow in the dark, and we got some trading cards that we're trying to bust out really quick. And so yeah, we're hoping to launch at the final weeks of June, if not early mid June, July.
Trading cards is a really good idea. I just did it as a lark, basically, for my first campaign, and they got snatched up more than anything else.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. That's great. I never knew, what the market was for that. Like I said, I'm new to Kickstarter.
Yeah, everything's a learning curve, man.
Yeah, and so I'm seeing these places, like Comics Wellspring offer, to make them and whatnot. So I was like, I kind of started got my gears turning, and then when I was starting to work with Joey over at Geek Collective, we kind of started talking about that, and he mentioned it, and so having that third hand kind of like, yeah, it's kind of good. That's pointing me in the right direction. And I kind of I loved Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and all that, and I've got a bunch of WCW cards somewhere over here.
I have a coworker who's not into comic books at all, and when I was telling him about it, I made these cards because telling coworkers about go to a website www. So I made this card with the UP, and he was checking it out with his kids. He's got teenage kids, and when they saw that I was offering trading cards, they're like, "Dad, we got to get." He goes, so he bought 7 copies of my comic because they want. I was like, Larry, you're my favorite coworker.
Oh man, I never even thought about
kids went nuts for cards.
Yeah, the kid grab, the trading cards for the kids. The dad might not care about them, but he might buy the comic because it comes with the cards for the kids. Yeah.
Let me ask you that: since is your comic for all ages? Is it R-rated? Is it G-rated?
It's PG-13. I wanted to be consumable for everybody. There's no nudity. There's no graphic. Deaths. There's no cursing. There's no drug use or alcohol. It's just good action. It's your fun. That you can pick up, and that's what I always wanted to. Comics were an outlet for me. It didn't make me want to do anything bad. It never convinced me to hurt anybody or hurt myself. It just made me want to be better and cooler and wanted me to be the hero, made me want to be the hero. So that's Absolutely. What I want, anybody to be able to pick up my comic and feel like, and
look at the cartoons we just mentioned, Batman, the animated series, the X-Men, these were all ages, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And now you said you're a 30-year-old man, and you watched them as a kid, and I go back to the animated series of Batman, and I still enthralled.
Still enthralled, and in a different way, when you were watching those as a child, it was just an enthrallment of that's superhero. That's Batman
swinging to the walls and blah blah blah. And
exactly
the dramatization and the characterizations and the motivations.
Yes.
But even as a kid, don't fool yourself. You picked up on some of that stuff. Maybe you didn't get all the subtleties, but you knew why Sub-Zero was upset because his wife was dead. Not Sub-Zero, Mr.
Well,
Freeze.
Sub-Zero's wife was dead, actually. Yes. Sub-Zero's wife was killed, actually. So, yes.
You know what I mean? So you knew all. Clayface was upset because he couldn't fit in, and then I'm not a big fan of the Joker. And then the Joker was a jerk.
And I think you said the magic words, Galen, because you said you wanted to be heroic, because that is literally why I created my channel to begin with. I wanted to talk about heroes.
Yep, and that's the name of my comic, Heroic Tales. So there we go.
And that's what comics, I think, have done since the beginning, was make everybody that read them and were fans of them want to be heroic. And Absolutely. We lost that somewhere along the lines, and that's where the kind of void I felt I wanted to fill it with my own. I was like, I'm not seeing that. Nothing's making me want to go save anybody in these comics that I'm reading right now. And so I was like, I can do that, and what's that?
I said, good for you. Because
thank you.
I'm so tired. When Dark Knight Returns came out, I talk about this a lot. I didn't like it, and I kept my mouth shut because peer pressure is a hell of a thing. And I was like, I just don't like it. Like, they're making Superman look like a jerk. The Watchmen came out. I really like The Watchmen. I know RJ, you're not the biggest fan of The Watchmen, but that was okay because that was his own characters. But I didn't, and then this whole wave of deconstruction and everything like that. And I see the point. It's a nice twist, but like I don't watch The Boys. I don't want to see jerk superheroes. I want to see heroic superheroes, like you were talking about. My dad used to, I used to fight with, not fist fight, but like argue with people. You can't do that. It's not the right thing. My father goes, "You read too many comic books." Like it was like a joke. You read too many comic books, kid. You can't fight with everybody. You can't save the world. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what you're supposed to do. I totally think that Stan Lee molded my morality to a large extent, and that's not even a joke.
I think he did for a lot of folks. I think he did for a lot of folks. And you read too many comics, that's a compliment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my dad was old school, you know what I mean? As old as I am, just imagine the generations before you read too many comic books. You're supposed to read them until you're 15, 16, and then you're supposed to work in the coal mines, and by the time you're 17, you already have 4 kids of your own. That's the way my dad thought.
And the black lung.
I was just going to say, when you described your basic premise at the first of when we started to talk, it sounded like you're doing what I would call a more Marvel-based hero rather than a DC-based hero. A DC-based hero to me is someone who's a fully fledged hero, is very heroic. He's iconic. But a Marvel hero is someone who needs to claw and snatch at trying to be a hero. And I think that's where you're going with this, is it?
Yeah. You're not off about that. No. So yeah, he's a real person. It's not, he doesn't come without flaws, and he does have to overcome that. And that is where the story, I think his own personal story is. And that's when we get to see the fully fledged superhero, because, we do have to kind of grow into being a hero sometimes. We're not always born a hero. Most of us aren't born a hero, and most of us want to be a hero, but we don't know how.
Right. We all want to do the good. We all tell ourselves we'll do the right thing. But, I grew up in New York during 9/11, and if I was on that plane, and I always got so annoyed by that argument. Like, you don't know what you would do. You know what I mean? Like, you're calling those people on that plane a coward because they didn't, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know what. So again, I was going to get into something we shouldn't get into, but like what you said, we all want to be the hero, and fortunately, we don't have the circumstances to see how heroic. And when I say fortunately, I mean a house explodes or a supervillain attacks or an alien invasion. You know what I mean? But what will we do? So it's the small things. I always return the shopping cart at the supermarket. You know what I mean? Because that's the evil that's in my life. Fortunately, my life is that good,
hey, but small things, and that's
right.
where that's a villain's, origin story, is that you didn't hold the door open for him, on his worst day ever, and he thought that you slammed it on him.
That's a great idea.
It's those things.
Crazy scientist is working out the plutonium equation in his brain, and the door hits him in the face, and he's like, "That's it, I'm blowing up the world."
Yeah, that's it. On his worst day ever, he just got fired. Now, whatever have you. Those small things. We don't have to do some big. We don't have to stop. A high
character. A person's character is how they behave when nobody's looking, right?
Exactly. A tree still makes a sound even if no one's around to hear it when it falls. Yeah, that's what integrity is. How are you going to act when no one's looking? And how are you going to act? When you think you're the best, but there's another level to that. There's another level that you can reach. And how are you going to get there if you already think you're the best? And so that's kind of where Shade is at.
I like this comment right here by George Morales. RJ, I don't know. I mean, last week in Japan, a guy stopped a knife attack, and when asked why, he said it's something Himmel would do, who is a paladin-like character in anime. I don't know who the character is, but this illustrates what you just said, is how we could read about these heroic characters and really, think about all our characters that we read growing up in America. Johnny Appleseed, Paul Bunyan. I'm trying to think of even Bugs Bunny with the anti-authoritarianism.
Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, you know what I mean. All of these characters that's why I never liked Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse always just seemed like a wishy-washy character. There's too much water. I don't know what to do.
I was more of a goofy fellow. Okay.
But I like that George is backing us up here. You put a little kid and show him Batman the Animated Series or the X-Men or this anime that I don't know, show them the examples of good guys. And I think that's something good about comics that I'm tired of the deconstruction. It's easy to be a bad guy. It's lazy to be a bad guy. And that's the whole point of bad guy.
Yeah, it really is. It's easy to be angry. It's easy to lash out. It's easy to stay angry at everybody. But what's hard is to not let that get to you, not let that bad get to you, and still open that door even when you're having that bad day.
Excellent point.
That's the hero, is when you're having that bad day.
It's easy to be a good guy when everything's going right. Just like I say to people, it's easy to be First Amendment when everybody's agreeing with you. You know what I mean? It's when people disagree with you, when it's hard to be a First Amendment proponent, that when it defines, do you really believe in this? Good point. When you're having a hard day and you still hold the door open so the mad scientist doesn't invent the plutonium equation to destroy the world.
Okay, let me ask this pointed question here. I want to ask this for Kalen. So John is basically the embodiment of your ever-loving blue-eyed thing. That's who he takes after. I'm a bit of a Wolverine man because I live out in the middle of the woods. I like to be, alone and solitude, all that kind of stuff. If you're an embodiment of a character you grew up reading, what would it be?
Oh man, that is a great question.
I thought you were tall, RJ. You're Wolverine.
Man.
And I will also say it's very good for all of us that RJ is alone in the woods.
I hate to say this, because we just went on this whole rant about.
I know you're going to say the Red Skull,
but Magneto is popping out to me.
Uh-oh.
Well, he was a hero for a little bit, or supposedly.
Okay. No.
I find Magneto a fascinating character because he does have a moral compass. He does have a higher purpose. And I loved in Secret Wars when the Beyonder put all of the heroes and villains in a group, he put Magneto with the heroes because the Beyonder didn't understand. And I think Magneto is a great character to illustrate the danger is not so much your mission. The danger is the zealotry behind it. Like he knows better. He will pursue, there has to be mercy and temperament because let's face it, he wants a world without bigotry and violence and racism and stuff like that, but he will crush you to get that, and that the ends justify the means. So I don't know. So are you saying that we better buy your comic or you're going to crush us? Is that what you're saying?
Charles! Yes.
It's going to pull Asteroid M down towards us.
Yeah. I didn't reach the goal. That's it. Long Island goes. RJ's, well, we don't know what RJ is. He'll probably
I'm just gonna crash Asteroid M into the planet, spin our electromagnetic field into a spiral.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say Spider-Man because you come across as like an everyday kind of guy, you know what I mean? Just like
I like Spider-Man, but I was never a Spider-Man mark, that just he's. And at a certain point, he got everything, and but he was that.
No, he's got the physique, he's got the cool job, he's got the hot girlfriend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's
no longer the nerd.
Dollars, and so that was never really my. I do love Ben Reilly though. I love Ben Reilly.
That's funny that you said that. That's about 3 or 4 times this week people were talking about I like Peter Parker. Don't get me wrong, but Ben Reilly is the man.
I don't know what it is
because he's the more down and out guy, right?
Yeah. He's the clone. He's the clone.
Yeah. Who may or may not.
I think he's the guy who, you know, you were just talking about when you're not having a good day. He's the Peter Parker who's not having a good day.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. He's somewhere in an alley somewhere sulking.
Yeah. So if the comic book powers that be would just say, hey, you could write an already established character, who would you write?
Oh, that's a great question.
And RJ, you too. Because I already said Fantastic Four, if I could.
Conan.
Yeah, I
wow.
should have
That's a good one.
And anybody in the chat, who would, if you could write a character or draw, because I know Nick is also an artist, who would it be?
I would love to write, any X-Men. I would love to write a Cable story. I would love to write a Cable story. Yeah, I love Cable. Cable is one of my favorite X-Men. I would love to write a Cable story. Time travel, future, hopping, that's always been, a button for mine. So that would be cool to write.
Is there time travel in your comics?
Time travel's not in my comics. No. I don't think I'm smart enough.
I appreciate
to not make a bunch of plot holes. So I'm going to leave that.
That tells me that you're taking it seriously, because so many people just do time travel. They just throw away the plot holes. It's like, it's multiverses and timelines, and that to me is just poor writing. So
look,
good
Back
for you.
to the Future, that film series was one of my favorite film series growing up. I love time travel. I love anything to do with time travel. And I love the way that the X-Men handled time travel, and I love anything time travel. I'm here for it. But too many plot holes, and I'm not smart enough. So, any you theoretical scientists out there, holler at me if you want to help me write a script on time travel.
Yeah, time travel. Alan Moore had a time travel he in 2000 AD, and I wish I could get the name. I'll find out the name of it and I'll put it on Twitter. But to me, it's the perfect time travel story, because they're crossing a lobby all the time, and in that lobby is all the versions of them time traveling in different costumes and in different, hiding from each other so they don't. But it's the same panel reused all over and over and over. The only difference is the word balloons, and it blew me away as a kid.
Oh man, that's right on the tip of my tongue. I feel like I know exactly what you're talking about. Now I'm gonna, as soon as we get off here, I'm gonna be
Knights of Atari Force. This is really weird, because Bud Riley's been mentioned like 3 times this week, and now everybody's talking about Atari Force. I never read an issue. I gotta pick up Atari Force.
Atari Force, yeah, that's new for me. Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, that's the classic X-Men, and I have to say, X-Men, they were the cream of the crop, the greatest comic of all time, and then it just went into the precipice, and I noped out and never went back.
I probably have more X-Men comics than any other comic series that I have. I love X-Men. Most of my Marvel Legends, most of my action figures are X-Men. I have Apocalypse right here.
Yeah. I have, in my garage, I have these big plastic bins full of toys, and I realized I have a shed and I don't have a lawnmower, so I think I'm setting up the shed as my Fortress of Solitude, and I'm gonna. Right now it's just filled with garbage that I don't know what to do with. I'm gonna clean it out, and I'm gonna put up shelves, and I just think it would be funny. I'm having a barbecue and people come over. It's like, hey, you want to go into the shed? And it's just gonna be all action figures. I'll set up glowing lights and everything.
That sounds like that should be in my backyard. I'll bring over some beers. Yeah, I'll bring over some beers.
What state do you live in now that you? I assume
I live in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay, you're a little far away, but you can come down. We got a guest room.
Okay. That's okay. Like we said, one day getting all the artists together for a beer and a barbecue.
Oh, Nick says he likes to draw Red Sonja. I would love to see Nick draw Red Sonja. That would be awesome. Nick draws some beautiful women. That would be cool. Nick, I'll get my chainmail bikini for you, Nick.
I think I'm actually going to pick up mine as well. We can do a calendar.
Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go, Nick. You'll get your harem over here. So, we were talking before about neither one of us or all three of us can't draw, but we like to draw a little. I wanted to ask you then, how conversations get sidetracked, but do you give a full script to your artist? Do you just give them an outline and let them do their magic? How do you do? What's your style?
So with Ron, it depends on who I'm working with. With Ron, well, on Shade more specifically, since Ram and I we don't speak the same language, I am very detailed, very full script, very detailed. I don't really give a lot of room for I don't really let him. I don't want to say that, but I don't leave it up to the imagination. I kind of have to really be very specific because we don't speak the same language.
Right.
But Ram and I, now we're on to book 3, and so now it's become very synergetic. Now he kind of knows what I'm looking for, and I sought him out for his style anyway.
Cool.
And so we're kind of getting that point where a lot of the things that a lot of his creative freedoms are just like, yes, that's awesome. It's perfect for Shade. And so I am very detailed, but it depends, with Bandito Red, I was mentioning earlier, that's a mini comic. I was a very loose outline, and I gave the script to Steven, the artist, and he had a field day, and he made it gnarly and sick and raw, and it's a badass little mini comic.
Cool.
So,
cool. I like what Vaz says. We see too many writers, artists play with other people's toys and break them. So I would rather prefer to write something original. And that's what made me leave Marvel and DC. I thought like a lot of these newcomers, they wanted to lift their leg and pee all over their characters and make it, put their scent on characters that they, like Denny O'Neil always said, we are custodians of these characters, and we need to put them back on the shelf so that other people could take them out, twist their arms and put them through their paces and pay their bills and pay their mortgages and put their kids through college and then put them back on the shelf. But I just get to feel, do you ever have those friends as a kid that just broke the toys and laughed? That's like,
that's a great way to put it. Custodians of these characters. I absolutely love that. I do find, a lot of people are looking for a shock value, and they want to do something cool and new and different with their character.
For a modern audience.
Not their character, but the character. And then now somebody else has to come up behind that and do that. It's like in wrestling, you can't, I got to follow that, like you just put on a banger of a match, and now I have to follow, whatever you just did. You can't just do something that's going to be irreversible or that can't be cleaned up or worked
right.
with by somebody else.
You could bend the characters, but you can't break them.
Agreed.
And I saw somebody's comment about the X-Men. I feel the X-Men have been broken. There's almost no coming back from this whole Krakatoa era. I don't know.
I haven't read. I think I stopped reading halfway through Hellfire Gala 2. I don't think I even got through all of that because it just got so much. I think I pulled out after Eternals versus X-Men versus Avengers. And I look, X-Men are my favorite. I have an X-Men tattoo. I'm always going to root for them. I'm always going to be there for them. I'm hopeful that something, that's what comics are here for, is to be hopeful. So right. I hope, for the future, especially with them bringing him into the MCU, hopefully, hopefully they want to do right by them, and we'll see. We shall see,
I got to ask you now, your character Shade, you said he's an occult spy superhero. Let's just imagine you got licensed to have a crossover. Who would you cross over with? Who'd Shade be hanging out with or fighting or teaming up with?
I mean, okay, it's kind of like an obvious, but if he could go on a mission with James Bond,
wow. I didn't expect that.
That would be super cool. Or if he ran into Hellboy,
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Hellboy right away, but James Bond, I didn't expect that. Or like you said, what if he's going through a temple and there's Indiana Jones already just running out. Go! Don't ask questions. Just start running.
Exactly. Or Indiana Jones has got there and got what he was looking for first, and now they've got to go at it for Indiana Jones uses his charisma and his style to get out of it. The first time and whatever, and chase him down.
Self inserts are all the rage these days. You can have Kentucky Kalen, and then that'll.
Well, Indiana's not too far. It's about a 15-minute drive, unfortunately. Sorry for anybody in the chat that's from Indiana.
Yeah.
I was just saying to John, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, that I think the difference between what we're doing, because all three of us are writers, people like us anyways, is the fact that we were the last, I think, generation to read comics. And I think what you said earlier, we read comics looking at it. It was a story. It was something we got enthralled with. It was heroic. We wanted to be part of that story. But as we read it, we instinctually picked up how comics should work. Whereas the people writing comics right now, they're deconstructing it, saying, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing, because that's how you put this story together and blah, blah, blah. They don't instinctually understand either the heroics of it or how the entire thing gets put together as a compilation of these separate artists and things like that. So see more writers out there. That's what I want to see. And that's why I'm a writer, and writing comics is because I think we need a renaissance of writers right now.
Yeah. How do we get stuff, pay your writers, how do we get new cool things instead of, constantly churning out flops, no, how do we get any new art? How do we get any new stories? Writers, we do need more writers, and writers that actually love and care about what they're writing, and not just, it's a paycheck, it's a job, whatever, hey, get your money, but love what you're writing, and put that love in there. And if you don't know, the history of the subject that you're writing, if you don't know your Spider-Man's history, and you're about to step all over, a massive arc that people really do care about and grew up, kind of shaping and molding them, and you're going to step on that and kind of change all of that and retcon it or what have you, and take it in a new direction, you got to take that in consideration. And maybe not go that route. Writers are very important, and we do shape a lot of things.
Well, I think that's a great top to our conversation. I usually only like to go for an hour so that we're not exhausted and everybody's left wanting more. So for anybody who came in late, Galen, can you give him the 30-second elevator pitch for your book and your campaign that's coming up?
Okay, Shade, a supernatural spy, goes on a action adventure mystery mission, looking for a supernatural object. He's got to deal with his own arrogance as well as betrayal. The Kickstarter is launching in the next few weeks. You can find it on my Instagram. You can find it on my Twitter.
Link is in the description, by the way, for his website as well.
There we go.
When you go live,
follow me on the Kickstarter. We're trying to get those numbers up. We're launching very soon. Like I said, we've got issue 1 and 2 out, variant editions of both of those. We've got trading cards. We've got stickers. Find me on Instagram. Find me on Twitter, Facebook, all of that. Reach out. Let's chat. Let's talk comics. Let's get nerdy.
Yeah.
Great. And I want to thank everyone in the chat who is here tonight. And I want to thank John for being here and leveling out my inability to keep a conversation going for more than 30 seconds. And thank you very much, Galen, for being here.
Hard to talk from the cave. I know that.
Hey, John, RJ, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate this very much.
No problem. All right. Good night, everybody.
Go live.
See you guys.
We'll retweet, try to get you.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
Yep.